And we're live from the Rez here with special guest, Mr. Dominic Dom Espinoza with the Z's. How you doing, man?
Pretty good. Happy to be here.
It's good to see you. I know exciting times coming up. You got a run coming.
Yes, sir. January 19th, I'm doing a marathon. This will be my fourth rock and roll marathon in Arizona. So pretty excited for that.
Is that the Phoenix area?
Yes, sir. Yeah, it starts in Phoenix, goes through Tempe, Scottsdale, drops you right back off at Tempe Beach Park.
Okay, and everybody out there in that part of the world, San Diegans just look at it all as Phoenix, but one neighborhood to the next.
Yeah, it's a trip when you're running through 4 different cities, though.
Yeah, I guess you really are, huh?
In San Diego, you can get anywhere in about 15 minutes driving. In Arizona, it takes about 30 minutes to get anywhere driving. So
just the traffic and everything?
No, just because of the way it's set up and how spread out everything is. It just takes a while to get everywhere. So.
Oh, okay. And Tempe used to live out that way? Is that why you run out there, or is there a reason you're not doing San Diego instead?
I will be doing the one in June here, but I'm doing that one. I do it every year. I try to do it every year, but that's where it originated. That's where I started doing them. So back in 2014.
2014. It's a while now. That's the rock and roll. So they have like music groups and bands and stuff like that, or do they play like a DJ? Do they have any kind of music going?
Yeah, so every so often, I don't know if it's marked per so many miles, but every so often you'll run past. They have a band stage set up, and they're rocking out, and it's a good feeling. You get jazzed up all over again when you're feeling like you want to quit 2 miles in, and so it's pretty fun.
That's cool. I want to go out there and just like hang out like about a mile from the finish line, and then when everybody comes in, just jog that last mile and fall at the end. We're going live. Knees, yeah, skin the knees.
Yeah, it's a good time out there. So yeah, you absolutely. I mean, so many times I've crossed that finish line and just wanted to fall right there, but you gotta save face for the camera. So.
Just come crawling and rolling, barrel rolling through the end.
There's no shame in it, but you try to look good for the camera.
So I mean, a lot of training goes in, so you don't look so rough, obviously. But even if you do train and you are ready to go, I'm sure things happen. They come up as you're running. I mean, it's 20. How far is it? 23 miles?
26.2.
26.2. Yeah. There you go.
Everybody's like, oh yeah, that 0.2. No, that 0.2 matters, man.
Yeah, I bet. Especially after 26 miles, 0.2 is a lot.
Yeah. There was 1 year. I mean, I've always been pretty active, but there was 1 year that I definitely got injured, and I sprained my MCL. Playing basketball. There's a lot of side-to-side movement, and so then I decided it was a good idea to go running. Do about 10 miles after that, after a couple hours of basketball, and just put too much stress on it. And I just always how I've lived my life, just go, and I stopped running after that and went back to it a couple weeks later. And actually, I took the rest of the time off. Ran the race, and about 6 miles in, I knew I was in trouble. So I was pretty painful.
I've never ran a marathon. I used to run a lot. I'd run 6-7 miles a day around Viejas, our res here. I'd go down, take a lap, come back. That was when I was in really good shape. I still try to run like 2-3 miles when I'm getting in shape. Like right now, New Year's resolution time, start of the year, trying to be healthy. So I started off like a mile and a half. Now I'm up to like 3 miles. I'm running kind of comfortably. I'm really pushing myself. But I know that like when you're running, you get a little rock in your shoe or you get a little something, and it's like you let that go for a little bit, it just eats your feet up. Or if you have a little soreness in your leg, it just eats you up.
Yeah, that happens on. I mean, I don't really put up with that because you got enough. If you're regularly running, you have enough things that are chewing up your feet. You get blisters everywhere, and you don't want anything extra like tearing up. But when you're running on trails opposed to running on like blacktop, I mean, I prefer blacktop, but trails are decent too. They're easier on the knees and everything, but yeah, definitely don't want anything extra in there after you've been running for 2 hours straight. It's going to tear you up and put you out for the next few days.
So do you have like a couple different pairs of shoes that you wear when you do that, or you just kind of have one good pair of shoes that you kind of train with and go into the marathon with, or what do you do for that?
Yeah, I usually just use one pair of shoes. I think I don't really know how other people do it. I think the general rule probably is train with one pair of shoes, use that for the marathon, and then you're probably done with them at that point. They've gotten their use, because you figure you got a couple 100 miles on them, so they're about done.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, due to certain circumstances, I'm using the same shoes that I've been using for the last marathon.
It's dedication. That's good.
But it
Power
doesn't hurt me, so I think we're doing all right. So
yeah, that's good.
they're broken in already. You know what I mean? So
they're ready to go.
Ready to go.
As long as you change your socks, you're good. I think maybe.
No, just kidding. They're my lucky socks now.
Have you ever lost like toenails or broke a toe or anything like that running?
That is the grosser side of the running aspect, yeah. But that happens, you're sweating in there for hours at a time, and I've definitely lost my pinky nail a couple times. Your just nails get really, really soft.
Looks like an old peanut, huh?
Yeah, they just tear off, but all's well now.
Yeah, I think all endurance is like that. One year, my wife and my niece, well, my wife's aunt passed away from cancer, and so she wanted to walk in her memory in the Susan G. Komen, the 60-mile 3-day walk. And so I said, all right, I'll walk with you, honey. And my niece walked, and we got a little team together. And anyways, we went down and did the walk. Now, I wasn't really aware that everybody trains a long time for that. To me, my mentality was, these are a bunch of old, they're a bunch of older ladies out there, and they're walking. But me, I'm a trained athlete. Not that at the time I wasn't in great shape, but I had that mentality. I'm like, I can handle it. But like the day one, I remember walking, and after that I was like, so sore my legs. I was like, oh my gosh, man. Because I'd been running a lot, but running and walking are way different.
Oh yeah.
It's way different. But one thing I noticed, it was really weird, because like after about 7-8 miles on the first day, people were like, I guess who didn't train much, like me. No, they were off to the side at some of these like, there's like little areas you would stop and you could get something to eat or drink and kind of calorie up, hydrate up. And there's like medic tents there and stuff. Mm-hmm. But a lot of people are getting their feet bandaged up, because a lot of people were buying brand new shoes and they beat your feet up if they weren't broken in. Exactly. And then a lot of people just did not train. So their toenails were coming off. They were swelling up and popping off their toenails. And I remember just seeing all these women there with like no toenails, or they're like bleeding, or they're all like swole, like just beat up feet. And I was like, holy smokes, dude, like what did I get myself into? And this is day one. So then day two rolls in, and I'm like, we're going to do it. Felt good, crisp the next day. And I remember just walking. And I did. I felt really good that day. But about the last mile of that day, and again, this is just walking. You think it's what, at the end of the day, I was like, oh my God, I am exhausted. My body feels so wore down. And the people who trained, they were still ready to go. And my wife's a walker. She's active. She was good to go. And I remember after it was all over, we wanted to get something to eat. We got in a taxi cab. And there was a driver from some part of Africa. And he was in there and he was asking, like, hey, are you okay? What's going on? Everyone's in pink and all this, right? And I'm like, I'm explaining to him what the Susan G. Komen is and all that stuff. And I was telling him, I said, we walked 20 miles yesterday. And we walked 20 today. We're going to walk probably close to 20 tomorrow. It's a 60-day walk. And he was like, wow, that's a long way. And then he started remembering back his story. He starts telling me, I was a young man before I came over here. I came over as a refugee, and in our area we were being chased out by some I guess guerrilla forces or something. Mm-hmm. And he was telling me about how he was like 10, 11 years old, and he had his little brother and his sister, and how he had to like carry him. And one night they traveled 50 feet barefooted through, he's telling me this crazy story, and I'm going like, and I get out of the cab, and I was just like humiliated almost. Meanwhile, I've been eating like 20 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I had my Gatorade, my feet are swollen. And I'm here complaining about like 40 miles in 2 days, and this dude did 50 carrying his little brother in dirt with no shoes, man.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
But I tripped out on the toenail thing. I didn't know that was a thing.
Oh, yeah, big time.
And so running's like that too,
yeah.
Huh?
My cousin Philip. I mean,
yeah.
He's an ultra runner, so yeah. Probably 0 toenails. I don't know.
You just got nubs. You ran through them. I know we had him here a while back, and he was talking about running ultra marathons. He's like 100 miles and stuff like that. They run all night and through the day, and that's crazy. One thing that I was talking to him about was the idea of running culturally, because a long time ago, that's how we got messages from one place to the next. Was the running? If I had an important message to get to the next village, our people just jog over there, bust out 10 miles or 20 miles on foot, and nowadays I feel like sometimes we think that's so far.
Yeah. And not only that, but escaping certain situations, where they're, um, whether it be the Spanish or whoever coming, switch us over, get us over there, the religion and everything. And, so we'd escape, and I was reading some stories, and it's like, all right, we're going to leave the weak and the old behind, and we're out of here. We're running.
Booking. So, got to get the message through.
But yeah, there is a cultural aspect, to it. And I think about that, I think about that, and I read these stories, and it's very interesting,
It's like in your genetics a little bit to run like that, maybe, yeah.
I kind of think that way. I think that way at times, people say, oh, it's crazy what you do. It's crazy what you do, and then I think about, my cousin Philip, who does the ultras and things like that. I'm like, well, it's not that crazy, There's always somebody that's doing way more than you. There's always, but it starts off steps, There's little steps you can take to get to that point, And when you're doing these steps and it becomes a habit, after a while, it doesn't seem so crazy, The goal always looks very, very far away and unachievable, but when you do the things that you need to do every single day, it becomes very, very clear, and you're like, wow, I can accomplish this. This isn't crazy after all, So
I know for me, I was really a chubby kid, and so I started trying to run as a way to kind of get in shape back when I was like, I don't know, maybe sophomore or junior in high school, and I would run down the street to like a telephone pole. Then I'd walk to the next telephone pole, and I'd run to the next and jog, kind of like that.
Oh yeah, and training they call that.
Is that what the technical?
Yeah, that's what they call it these days.
It was me. I called it catching my breath. Exactly. I called it survival at the time.
Exactly.
But I remember thinking like, man, to run to the other side of the res, like, it's so far away. Like I need to get a ride back. And before I knew it, I was able to jog there and jog back, and then my mind started to think differently. Like I used to say, well, I'm in walking distance. Like if I went to Alpine, like, if there was something happened, the world ended, I could walk home and still be okay,
Yeah.
Meanwhile, it's not that far, like Alpine's like, 5-10 miles from here. But even like in San Diego, I think to myself, like, I could walk back. I know like some of the local areas, the next res over, there's elders there at the Sequan Reservation. And they talk about when were young, all the men would get up every morning and they'd walk up to Lakeside or walk into El Cajon. Some of them would even walk towards downtown. And they'd go to work, and then they'd walk or jog back. And so it's like, man, that's a whole different mentality as opposed to thinking, you think about distance, you got the psychological distance. There's as the bird flies, but then there's that psychological distance to think 5 miles isn't that far, or 10 miles isn't that far. And I think for me as a chubby kid, I used to think like a mile. PE teacher, we're going to run a mile today. And it's like, oh my gosh, man. Can you just rip off my finger instead? But then as I start running, it's like a mile. That's like a warm-up, It's not really that much. But you like stretch your brain, you stretch your mind to think that you can do way more,
Yeah, that's the thing about it is, it's the fun part. Well, maybe not fun for some, but the fun part for me is, breaking down those ideas of what you think is possible for you, and just accomplishing really anything you want, and quite literally one step at a time. So and that that transcends through anything that you want to apply it to, and that's the cool thing is it's mental, and so just apply it to anything, and it's.
Do you feel like it builds your mentality as much as it does your body?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It changes you, when you're in that mode. I don't train, year round. I really don't. But, there's times I get a little lax and everything, and I take some time off. You need a lot of time off after a marathon, but yeah, you're just programming your brain and just like, it's so focused on one thing, and you surprise yourself every day. You're like, wow, I did better than I expected, or I did more, I did more miles than I was intending to do. And yeah, like I said, that goes all across the board for, anything in life.
So what does your training regime kind of look like? What's a distance like for a day? Like what do you run, or what did you start out with? Where do you kind of plan to be on before you go and do the marathon? Like, like for me, like I was saying, I run I started out like a mile, and I was jogging that real slow, and then got to a mile and a half. Kind of quickly within a month, I was up at 2 miles, and now I'm at 3, and I'll probably taper off at 5 because that's just me until I kind of, get a little lighter and strengthen myself. But that's always kind of been my window. If I let myself get out of shape, I'm always able to get back to running about, 3 to 5 miles a day, and I feel real good at that kind of variance. To get any further, I need to like really train and do a lifestyle change probably more, which I may, it's 2020, man. I might do it. I am eating better. I've been drinking soda in a lot of years, and I drink a lot of water, and so I might do it this year. I always say I'm gonna, but so maybe I'll be doing 10. But for you right now, getting ready, you're in the final countdown to your marathon. What did your training look like going into that?
Well, it started off, I never really went into it with a plan. I just started doing it with a friend, and we just started doing races together. And then it wasn't until somebody proposed that I do a half marathon, and I was like, all right, let's do it. It's up in Sedona. I'm sure you're familiar, but it's up in altitude, and it's a little crazy. It's
beautiful, but yeah, it's high altitude.
February, Sedona, snow. It's a little brutal. But there's a template essentially that you follow, and they found it online, and you just kind of you don't just shoot for 13 miles every day, so you start off light, maybe it's a mile, and
I can do that.
Then I always give myself 1 day of rest, at least, maybe 2 depending on how I'm feeling. If I really pushed it, 2 days, but usually not more than that. You got to listen to your body, And then, say the next time you run, it's 3 miles. And then the next time you run, you try to go for that 5 miles, But you got to work your way up to it. It depends on your level, if you've been doing it for a while. So for me, in this training, so what this week looks like for me, started off with 4 miles, went down to 2 miles, and then I'll do 10 miles. I'm kind of tapering down because we're getting close to the.
You don't want to overtrain, right? That's a thing too.
Yeah, and I don't want to be sore coming up to the race. But so you see, it's small race, big race. Maybe do another small, and then do another one that's you're getting closer to your goal. So by the end of it, my longest race was 20 miles, or my longest run was 20 miles. And then, that week, the shortest one I would have done is 8 miles. So, 8, start off with 10, do 8, and then back up to 20. That's how I stagger it. It allows me to push myself during the shorter runs, so I can, get that. It's like the interval training, like what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
You can push yourself harder, and then when it comes time to doing those longer races, more endurance, you have the capacity to kind of take it easier, but your endurance is there. So your heart's a muscle, and you got to train it, and it's worked for me.
That's one thing I noticed, like young people do sometimes, is they'll go into a gym and it's like, all right, we're gonna max out. Okay, how much can you bench or something, and it's kind of like with running that people want to make the mistake of pushing yourself to the limit, like every day in progression. Like, okay, it's New Year, we're getting in shape. I'm walking 5 miles every day. Wow. And it's like day 3, they're just sore, hurt. And then mentally they're like, why am I doing this? I quit. And that's it. They're done. And it's like, no. You shouldn't, take 2 chill pills, take 3 steps back, and then listen to your body, right? Kind of ease into this stuff, make it a lifestyle.
We're not 18 anymore.
Yeah. Well, even when I was 18.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I said, that's what led to injury before, is kind of trying to do too much. I mean, I'd wake up, go lift weights, play basketball for 2 hours, and then go on a 10-mile run. That's stupid. So
too much is what it is, huh?
It was too much for my body, and I wasn't really, I was just like, let's go for it. I can do anything, and that's what led me to that injury. And I ran that marathon that year. It took me 4 hours to complete, and I ran through a very painful injury. It was wild, but that's what you're gonna do. It was about 6 miles in, and I continued to go. It only hurt when I stopped running. So, with that idea,
just keep pushing.
Just keep pushing.
One more step.
But but yeah, that's what leads to injuries and stuff. And you got to think about that. If you want to have a long-lasting career in this and you want to keep it going, you got to take the necessary steps and take it easy on your body. And like I said, giving yourself a proper break. Don't always just go gung-ho, 5 days a week and just, every day. Now, just ease into it, listen to your body, push yourself, always push yourself, because that's how you allow for muscle growth, again, with your heart. If you do 2 miles one day, or if you can run 3 miles right now, you can run comfortably 3 or 4 miles.
Yeah.
Do 1 mile, but see how fast you can do that 1 mile and call it quit. Go home.
Yeah.
Because then you're going to notice that time that you do that 3 miles, you're like, oh, this is easy. Maybe I should do 5 miles. I can do 5 miles right now.
Yeah.
And you'll find that you're just making it easy on yourself every time. And so I always time myself. That's for me, that's key.
Do you write this down, or have you ever done that, the whole writing it down thing, or keeping a track of it on your phone or device or something?
Yeah, I mean, I've got an app now.
You got an app. I forget about that.
It is, we are modern, You're
not writing it down on your little, booklet, That's the boomer in me coming out. No, okay.
Dear diary, I did great today. No.
So your app records all that though. It kind of tells you where you're at and.
Yeah. Okay. And it's well, because it's like a stopwatch. It's you have your GPS on, and it breaks it down to you each mile.
Mm-hmm.
So not only do I know how fast I did the whole thing, I know that over the course of these 10 miles, that my minute per mile only dropped like 30 seconds over 10 miles, which is great, because that means you're consistent, you're running at a decent speed, you're not picking up, slowing down. You want a nice, consistent run through the whole thing. You ever
get on the map and go run like a message to somebody? Like you run it on the thing, and when you look at the map, you screenshot it, says like "I love you" or whatever.
That I've seen people do.
Valentine's Day's coming, man.
Valentine's Day. I do it around my ex's house. F you. Look what I got for you. I was thinking of you.
So what do you do? What about diet, man? I know that's always a big thing people talk about. What kind of things are you eating?
I think it's I'm not very good with this at all. I think it's really important to get fruits and veggies in. I know that sounds super cliche, but I also believe in getting, just eat what you're comfortable with. Eat what you're comfortable with. Don't do any extreme changes to your... Okay, I'm not giving this advice. This is for me. I don't do anything extreme. I mean, I'm still going to eat those burritos. I'm still going to eat some pizza.
You almost went down that road where it's like, well, don't...
Yeah,
I don't.
Because what works for me doesn't work for some.
Sure.
Or for all. But I do, I mean, I'm getting my, carrots, turmeric, ginger, I'm getting my salads in there. So as long as I'm incorporating that in, you're getting as much vitamins and protecting your body as much as possible, because you're breaking yourself down quite a bit. And you definitely need those in there. So yeah, I got my banana here right now. I plan on eating
banana tailpipe. Yeah.
Plan on eating that on the way back, and that's sugar. That's that's amino acids that are going to help you maintain throughout the run. So I could get up, eat a banana, 45 minutes later, run 6-7 miles, no problem. So. And it's a lot better. It's easily digestible. Some people like to run on an empty stomach. Some people like to run after the eating. For me, if it's a long run, I'll definitely get some food in there, and it's gonna be light, something your body can easily break down. Some fruit, oatmeal, something like that. But short runs, do 3-4 miles. I don't want anything in my stomach, honestly. I can't do it,
Really?
I feel heavy and
yeah,
just
makes you have to stop and go to the restroom maybe too. How your body's digesting your you're bouncing around.
That absolutely happens, especially doing a marathon. I mean, there's porta potties out there for a reason. You're compressing your stomach, and and that that definitely happens. And I'm sure you've seen the horror pictures of that.
No, but I guess I'm gonna go Google later. But I haven't kind of experienced that. When I went running on a Sunday one time. Well, this is years ago when I first started running kind of good distance, and for a while I was running on a track, so it was just kind of like right there. But when I started to run away from home before I came back, I ran the other side of the res, and then I was coming back, and my stomach's like, oh man, I gotta go. But it was like like nobody was home, and there's nothing open. I was like, I don't want to go in the middle of the field. I don't want the cows looking at me, and I jogged all the way back, and luckily I went. I don't know if he's watching this, but I went to my compadre's house, and I said, and I knocked, hey, anybody here? And I just went there to use the restroom and jammed. I tell him later, I say, hey, man, I went and I dropped a bomb in your yard. He was like, what? And I was like, no, I didn't do that. But I mean, I really did go, not in his yard, but I just told him that. But I realized then I was like, whoa, man, that's kind of scary. You have to really think about what's in your stomach before you do these long treks like that. Or you can come back with no socks. It's your call. But it's a real thing. It does. It starts getting your metabolism going and stomach's bouncing and all that.
Do you think the cows would have been like, what's that smell?
They start judging me the way I judge them.
The way you try to roll up your windows when you pass a pasture. They're like, what is that?
They're about looking down on me. And then hydration. How you do with hydration?
Well, that's during the race. I mean, it's easy because they have things set up for you. They have Gatorade, water. Now me, I come from my family. We sweat a lot. So by the end of the whole thing, I mean, there's salt all over my face. It brings it out.
Okay.
So I try not to drink too much water, but I'm gonna try to get I'll get little cups of Powerade, and then I take salt pills.
Okay.
And those little chews, there's a bunch of them. There's all sorts of different brands nowadays.
And some of those are just like solid electrolytes, right? They're made for that.
Maybe
the gels,
a little caffeine. You gotta be a little careful with caffeine because that will, it's a diuretic. It'll help you pass urine and everything. Okay. You'll want to go to the bathroom after that, but whatever it takes to kind of keep you going and keep you from cramping. Hydration.
Crack. Yeah. Meth. No, I was just kidding. I should have joking. I think I tore my knee out. The piece kicking in though. I'm good.
I put off, throw it over your shoulder.
Just hobbling in.
But yeah, that's always been a problem for me, cramping. Okay. About mile 20, 22, somewhere around there, I just I start cramping up big time, and that's always been something I've had to fight through and figure out. Keep modifying things. It's a learning process for me because I don't have anybody that I've really taken examples from or listened to, because again, like I said, it is entirely up to you how your body's going to respond. What works for you may not work for me. What works for me may not work for you, and you just kind of got, like I said, listen to your body. That's the biggest thing.
I think it's an important message because like you get involved in health stuff, and there's always people telling you what you should and shouldn't do. Oh, you're not doing it right. You should be doing this, and this. You shouldn't be eating that. You should be eating this. But it's kind of like you really do have to listen to yourself and see what works for you. And one thing I learned is that, depending on your genetics, we all have roots in different areas around the planet. And our people came from eating certain types of food. So like you look at like the people in Mongolia, like those dudes are carnivore diets. They're eating like solid meat and drinking milk and eggs and things like that, but they're not they don't really eat greens. And like it's like, well, how are they functioning? These people are still healthy. They're living out that way for thousands of years, but they're if I was to do that, I think I would get sick, because I'm not used to eating that kind of meats. I've gone on kind of mostly carnivore diets, carne asada and pollo asada. Hey. But but no, like if I eat too much meat, like it really sits heavy on me. My body don't digest it well.
Oh, yeah.
And I know a lot of people don't digest dairy very well. And so like we all have, there's allergies to peanuts and all this stuff. We all have different dietary needs and concerns. So when people are like, well, you can't eat those or you have to eat this, it might work for somebody else. It may not work for you and vice versa. And I feel the same way about strength and conditioning also, where some of us are different body types, where some of us are made to run distance. Some of us struggle at doing that. Some of us are made to lift very heavy stuff, and some of us struggle at that. And, we all have different physical characteristics. And if you look at your family, a lot of times you'll carry their characteristics, but not always. but you can kind of see what works for you and for your own performance and whatnot. But if you're listening to somebody who comes from a different genetic pool from the other side of the planet, they've eaten for thousands of years different food, done different things, their body makeup's totally different, and you're trying to model yourself in their little cookie cutter model. I feel like that could be a pitfall, because now you're trying to do something that's not natural to your body a little bit. And so like what's his name, the swimmer, Phelps.
I was just thinking the exact
everybody
same
always
thing.
goes to Phelps because it's like, well, that dude eats like 10,000 calories a day. Let me get another steak and bring some pancakes over. Everyone wants to eat like that. And they're like, no, Phelps could do it. I could do it too. I'm gonna go swimming later.
Yeah.
But it's like, maybe not.
Well, yeah, and those calories where he's getting them, I mean, they're going to be very different than what you think.
Yeah.
How he's getting those. It's probably going to be a lot of supplements, things like that, and things that are lighter. You have to be lean, especially swimming. I mean, you have to cut through the water. Low body fat.
Yeah.
You don't want to be floating to the top when you're swimming.
You don't want to be that picture of that guy that's so majestic. You ever see that where he's got his belly and his hair? And he's
my God.
That looks like me at the beach. No, but
bobbing around like a cauliflower. So, and I bike too, and you go through. I'll bike for 5-6 hours at a time, and you do burn you'll burn 4,000 or 5,000 calories, and yeah, you have to replenish that, and to not wither away, you have to add some. So you're going to get like 6,000 calories a day, but you have to make sure it's the right foods, because yeah, I mean, you got to replace that. You got to replace that nutrition and make it. But it's not going to come from just a couple of steaks and
let me grab some potato chips.
Yeah,
that's good.
You could do that in 3 bags of Lay's.
Yeah.
But
what I found out though too is like if you eat like that, like I'm hungry, let me just get some Doritos, some Lay's, or whatever, chips, and you're eating kind of like that junk food type of stuff. You can eat a bunch of it and it'll fill the void, but your body still feels hungry. You still want to eat because you're not getting those nutrients.
Exactly.
And so like if you eat like a solid steak and some greens or something kind of rich, then like your hunger goes away. It's kind of like if you go to, and I've made this mistake, showing up in a restaurant back when I used to drink soda and drink like 6-7 sodas, but it's like I just needed a glass of water. I'm just thirsty,
Mm-hmm.
If I would have drank a glass of water and then drank those sodas, maybe I probably would have only needed 1 or 2 sodas. But now I just drink a 6-pack of sodas. My diabetes alert's going off, and I just drink 1,000 calories or whatever it is. And but I could have just drank a glass of water and not had that issue. So it's sometimes the small things, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. That's a really good point, and I've been guilty of that, especially running. There was my friends were hanging out the night before the race, and I went over there. There was pizza, there was soda, there was beer, and I was like, yeah, I'll have some pizza, I'll have a beer. People are looking at me strange and like, what are you doing? You got a race tomorrow. I was like, yeah, no problem, I got this. And I was fine, and this guy that was asking me about it, he was running it too, and he didn't do it, but he finished after me. But it was more of me knowing my body. Not saying that that's a great idea, but I definitely knew what I was capable of, And but it is in your best interest to do healthier things. They didn't know that I was eating salads and fruits all day. Like really, when you think of carb loading, for a run, it's not just pasta and potatoes and things like that. It's definitely getting those fruits and those complex sugars in there, so you can really have that endurance throughout the race. So, it is a good idea to promote, healthy eating, and the beautiful part about when you get wrapped up in this activity and you're doing these things for hours on end, hours on week, throughout the month, you don't want the junk food anymore. You'd be like, chips? Why am I eating these chips? Like I really crave, I crave nutrients. Your body craves it and tells you when you want it. So like those sodas and stuff, no, you're just like, I want some electrolyte water. So.
Yeah, no, I feel that for sure. Like some people will say like they don't like water, they don't like taste of water, or they don't notice the difference between one type of water and another. And it's like, well, then you probably never kind of like got yourself in a position to appreciate water. Like if you ever go for a long run or a long hike, or you're outside in a hot and you drink that water, it tastes so good to me. Or like fruits, like you get some fruit, it's like, oh my God.
Nice orange.
Nice orange, a lemon or something. It tastes really good. It feels good. The other part of that too is like I always promote sobriety and all that stuff, just because I think that's it's a good thing to promote. But a lot of our people do they do partake, whatnot. And I noticed that when I did that 3-day walk is that like at the end of every day there was always a table set up with some like red wines and some beers and at the time I did it 3 times, and one of the years that I did it I was actually drinking that year, and I had a drink of I think it was like Coors Lights. I guess it was technically water. No, but no a little drinking humor. But I drank one down, and I was kind of like, it's kind of like the sugar is what I was looking for. I need the sugar. Dark chocolate's probably the best for that. But just to have that, like the carbs that are in that, and
yeah.
I don't know. So people have their own ways to try to replenish all of that. The problem is replenishing when you haven't eaten or you haven't done nothing.
Yeah, so it strikes me as odd sometimes at the end of these races. I mean, there's always like, here's this free ticket for a beer, or here's this free ticket for this junk food, and I don't get it. I think they should be promoting healthier things. They got the muscle milk, and even that stuff isn't terribly great for you. But they have bananas and fruits at the end too. But it seems like some of these big sponsors are really pushing their products. Michelob Ultra's out there and things like that. So that kind of is being essentially shoved down our throats. Where for young people who very impressionable, want to start off doing something healthy, you're gonna get a little bit of this too. You're gonna have to see this like. Here's this, it's muscle milk, it's protein, but it's also a ton of sugar and, some just stuff you don't really need. You can get protein from, greens and everything else. So
yeah, the supplement market can be kind of tricky because it reminds me of like a South Park. You're watching Stan's Cartman's trying to get buff, and he gets like the weight gainer. I'm gonna be buff, he's like back in there. But it's like that's people do have that mentality where they're like, I'm just gonna get supplements, and then that'll take the place of hard work or planning. But a lot of times it's like you could just get those out of natural foods and stuff.
Yeah, supplements. The market is there to. Well, it's been. I feel like it's been a huge trick, but really. It's for people who may be on the go and don't have enough time to make a good meal and make a nice nutritious meal. All right, I'm gonna drink this shake and then I'm good. It's like no, nothing really takes the place of a solid some protein and some salad and some of that good stuff. So yeah, that's another thing. I definitely talk to people about that. About the misconception of certain things that are promoted when you're doing these races and these ideas. It's not always, it's not always what you think it is. It's not always what they're trying to tell you, because somebody's getting paid and they're gonna try to make you get their product, of course. So
and some of that product, you wonder how clean it is anyways, because like professional athletes, they have to get all of their products, their supplements screened. Sometimes you'll see, I watch a lot of MMA, and there's been fighters that have popped dirty, and they're like, no, I haven't done anything wrong, whether they have or haven't, I don't know. But they'll blame it on the supplements. They'll say that there might have been a banned substance in the supplement that they didn't know, because sometimes they cut, the supplement companies will cut their supplement with a different type of, chemical, and then that chemical might be banned, but so there's traces of it there. The person might just be on roids too, but you see that, so it really makes you question, like, are these products as clean? Are they as tested? Are they as as we assume that they are? And a lot of times on the supplement bottle, it'll say not tested by the USDA or made in someone's garage. It's just, but you never really truly know sometimes.
Well, you're getting paid millions of dollars to get in a ring and beat people up, and you have a somebody who writes out your diet, cooks for you, maybe. Are you going to know exactly what goes in your body? I mean, I feel like I'm paying enough money. I probably will know what's going in. I don't know if I believe a lot of these people. That
sometimes you do question that,
but whatever. That's.
At the same time, like if they're reading the bottle and it's like, well, this list and those, they don't, I'm good. It's not on the list. It's not all these things aren't on the list. I'm good. But maybe like it's a different name. I don't know, man. You never know.
Or it changed slightly. Something that wasn't banned, the year before is kind of accepted into. I'm pretty sure that's not how Lance Armstrong was busted, but
he might have been doing a little something else, I mean,
a little blood doping.
Yeah, that's a whole interesting thing, right? That what do they like take blood out and then they put it back in and you get the rush, or
Well,
I didn't
yeah.
understand that. That was a whole interesting thing.
Oh, yeah. Well, the idea behind that it's essentially like training in altitude,
Uh-huh.
but without the training part. So you're taking your blood cells out, you're forcing your body to create more, and then after a few weeks, months, whatever, you reintroduce all those blood cells back in that are carrying oxygen to your muscles, brain, everything, and so you're twice as efficient, or whatever the number is, however much, but
Yeah.
you're more efficient, you're getting more oxygen, your endurance is going to be there. So that's what your body does when you're training in altitude. It's the same kind of thing. Your body is forced to you're cutting off oxygen essentially. Okay. You're in higher altitude, less oxygen, right? So your body's forced to produce more red blood cells. So when you go back down to like say you're at sea level, so you're training back here in San Diego, you're gonna be, you're gonna
Kind of jacked up, overcompensated.
Yeah,
Your body's
absolutely.
been overcompensated. Now I know like people do dialysis and they feel very weak from that because the blood's coming out and then when it comes back in, they feel a little bit better, whatever. But to just double up your blood, man, that's got to be such a rush, I imagine. That's crazy.
I don't know. Sounds fun. Want to try it?
You know what's crazy? Probably in the future, like they probably will have something like that. I mean, you hear about like stem cells and all of these other, the science of blood right now going on, where they're talking about, maybe engineering health is, I guess, where they're trying to do. They want to make healthier people. But then you get people, the talk of like engineering kids, where you can decide the eye color, maybe skin color even, or the hair color, or the height of your kids, and then all these kinds of crazy things. And the point it gets really easy to do these things, you wonder like, yeah, I guess you could go somewhere and instead of an oxygen bar, or it could be a vitamin bar, like it would be a blood bar where you could get injections of some kind of blood, and now you're all pumped up and. I don't know, man. That's
I'm giving birth to 6 NBA All-Stars.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and retire right now.
They'll take care. They'll take care of you the whole way. That's your retirement plan.
That's my retirement plan.
I feel like a lot of this though is a mentality of like some people come from health and they create this culture of their lifestyle, their mind of like, I want to eat right, I want to kind of get back to nature, I want to go hike, I want to run, I want to do these things kind of in a natural way. And then I feel like there is a different side of it too, where some people are like, well, I want to get the chemicals, the supplements, and and really just push myself to the max and find a new way to break through to these new physical realms. And me, I always think like in the middle is probably good. If you need supplements, take them, but you should probably stay close to natural as possible. Eat foods that are I say like eat some of our indigenous food because your genetics are already used to eating those foods down, where maybe somebody else's superfood might make you sick. So should we power, and all that kind of stuff, but like chia seeds, or this is a superfood, but it's like we've been eating that forever, what I mean?
Oh yeah,
it's good for you. Chia, but like I was saying, that chemical side, the supplement side, like I see people online and they're taking like the pre-workout, and you think they're just taking dope, man. Like they're like, I'm gonna take a couple of these and go work out, and it's like, well, do you need that to go work out? Like, I mean, it's cool you're taking it, but do you need it? Like, you might be giving yourself a heart attack,
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing, be very mindful of what you're putting in your body when you're doing that. There's caffeine for that energy. There's certain things that, there's nitric oxide that, is going to dilate your blood vessels, where, again, that's another thing. That creates a bigger pathway for more blood cells, more oxygen to your muscles. So, people do that, and it works. But yeah, there's some filler, but they put in amino acids and things like that, stuff that's gonna help you with endurance. I'm sure there's companies out there that make a shady product, but or too much caffeine. It's like, all right, I don't need to pass out.
My mom used to say coffee, like with caffeine with coffee, she'd say, drink coffee, drink it black. Because she was a little kid drinking. Then they had like a boil order. When she grew up, the water wasn't so good. So they were always boiling their water. So she grew up on coffee. Her old people all drank coffee. And she, like, did black coffee. When she was like 5, 6 years old, she was sipping on black coffee in the morning. And so she's always drank coffee. My mom's smaller lady, but she'll still drink like a cup of coffee, and then she's like, I'm going to bed, good night. But she'll just drink the coffee like that. She could drink it black. She's always told me, she says, son, the coffee is healthy. It's good. It's like beans. It comes from beans, coffee beans. She said, there's like beans that you eat and there's beans that you drink, and they're good. But and in some ways, she's right. Like it is like if you drink just coffee, and I'm not saying drink some crazy amount, but if you don't put all that creamer and the sugar and all these crazy things inside, you're just kind of drinking it in its original form. Yeah. It's not that bad if you drink a little bit of that, get you going. It does get something to your blood a little bit, your heart. But now it's when you drink like, cowboy coffee and 3 cups of it. Now you got palpitations and falling apart.
Even green tea, green tea. I think, if you compare certain coffees to, one bag of green tea, it's going to be pretty comparable. So, or if not, a little bit better. And just, you're putting a clear liquid instead of this coffee that, you see it stains people's teeth and stuff like that. And it's like, all right, let's go for the cleaner of the two, so.
Yeah, tea's a good healthy choice. Do you drink teas a lot?
No.
Is that no? Sounds good, but I'm honestly saying I was just saying that I always hear good things about tea. I drink tea when it's like when I'm sick or I need medicine or something like that. But other than that, I don't really drink tea. I don't know why.
Sometimes when I'm like trying to taper off of everything, but I don't want like those headaches because I got those withdrawals. I'm like, all right, let's taper down a little bit, get some green tea, and try to get off everything. But it's tough, man. I got that caffeine fix. I'm not to the point where I can drink 3 cups and just pass out, but maybe 1 cup.
I like never drank coffee for years. I like once in a while, but then like a few years back, I started drinking it, and I was like, wow, I really liked, to be able to go and actually start to like I like to get a coffee in the morning. I like how it warms me up. I like the taste, have a little snack with it. It's not probably the healthiest thing, but I do it, and it's like, but I don't know, I need to really think about going over to tea. But for me, like coffee's warm, it's so convenient. You can get it anywhere.
And you've been doing it forever.
Yeah. I've created that dependency, And that's the thing with all of this. It's like you have dependencies, like obviously we want to stay away from drug dependency, alcohol dependency. We want to stay away from negative people dependency. No, we want to stay away from, but we want to get to like more healthier dependencies, and it's like eating good, putting a workout regime in your body, in your daily practice. You want to go work out, get healthy. You want to have, obviously educate yourself and all of these kind of cool positive dependencies where I know for me, when I started running, I got to the point where I had like runner's high, where you have to run or you almost feel dirty or something. Like you feel like you're missing out on something. Do you feel that way?
I get the high after I'm done running.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it looks like I'm high. I've gone into work sometimes and I'm just like, my head's feeling a little light because you think you're depriving your brain of a little bit of oxygen after pushing yourself that hard, so you do essentially get high. So I don't actively chase that, but I do actively chase the fact that I'm pushing myself to another limit. So if I get that, I know I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah.
But you gotta find your motivation for the whole thing. A lot of people are like, especially right now, we're at the beginning of the year, beginning of the decade. I think a lot of people are gonna be like, all right, I'm gonna go run, and they're gonna stop after come February. It's like, what happened with that? I'm not doing it anymore. I don't know. I got busy. It wasn't for me.
Yeah, I got caught up.
Yeah, work's been pretty crazy. But find your motivation. What was your motivation? Is to stay in shape, or
I was trying to find a chick, man. I was young, I was a teenager. No, I was a bunch of things. For me, like I was pretty thick, and I wanted to. It was hard to find clothes. I mean, every time I dressed, I didn't feel comfortable in my clothes. I was surrounded. I don't know. And then the other thing too is when I started doing it, I enjoyed doing it. I wanted to play sports was another thing. I wanted to play sports at school, and I was way too out of shape to play or even be any good. So, it was kind of like, well, I need to start getting in shape. I was also doing martial arts at the time. They had, they had this dude come out to the Rez, and he used to come out to a couple of the Rezes here. May he rest in peace. Dude was so legit. Rest in peace. Shout out to the late Grandmaster James A. Wilson. And man, that dude would come in, and he was a Taekwondo black belt. Oh, yeah. And man, he looked like Lou Gossett Jr., but he was he was just so legit because we'd go there and I was like chubby Indian kid there, you know, they were all in the class and he'd be like, punch me in the stomach. He'd be like, what? He'd be like, punch me. Like, all right, so you punch him in the stomach, but his stomach was like, he had this belly, but it was all muscle. And then he'd be like, whoa. And then he'd be like, all right, we're going to do some push-ups. So he'd get down and do push-ups and he'd be like on one hand, like you're pushing him out, you know? And he'd be like on one hand doing one-handed push-ups looking at you like, come on, you can do more. And I'd be like, this dude's legit. And then he was always like telling stories, you know, and like he did a lot of things in his life and he was in the, you know, legal and the medical and all these different industries. And he also did the Taekwondo. Mm-hmm. And so we would go up there and we'd be training and sparring. And so it's kind of like, that kind of got me thinking like, I should probably get in better shape, you know, because I'm always out of breath and I'm going to kind of, you know, force myself to go through. His number one technique, I guess you'd say, was the we would train this dude for like 20 minutes straight. The single and the double finger eye attack. And he would say, you know, you can punch people and you kick them, this and that, but you're going to lose if the guy knows how to do it better than you or if he's big, because adrenaline kicks in, you punch somebody. And I always tell girls this too. I said, watch UFC, watch boxing. These dudes get cracked in the face, kicked and beat up. I mean, sometimes it goes lights out. Sometimes it's go night-night. But a lot of times people, if you punch somebody, they're going to look at you. Especially a big dude, especially if they're crazy. You know, they got the Mike Myers, you know, effect going. Especially if they have adrenaline pumping. You punch somebody who's trying to attack you, they're going to look at you. You know, you can bust someone's nose, cut their eye. They're going to look at you. If you kick them, they're going to look at you. But, you know, and Grandmaster James A. Wilson would say, take them in the eye. He'd say, and he used to always say this, and I tell people this day, like, you know, someone's really trying to attack you, you know, try to get away. I have no problem with you. I have no problem with you. There's a point at which they have a problem with you, they're going to attack you. And that's when you really let them know, I have no problem with you. And you go with the eyes. And we would train this, like, and it was always like a single finger or a double finger eye attack. And it was so ridiculous when we were training. It's just like, this is out of a movie, dude. Like, really, I'm going to poke a guy in the eye? You know? But we would train that over and over, and then we would follow it up with a karate kick to the groin, right? Like a boom, you know, like we would train this. It's like, ah, and he would like scream. He'd be like, bache, and he'd do that. Like, this dude was so, like, I was speaking Korean, like, kicho punse ilbo, I'd be doing this whole thing, kyungye, and he was such a character, you know, may rest in peace now, but he would be like, one time I was kind of like sparring, he'd show me a thing, right? I was the dummy for this example, and man, he had my hair tied up in my hand. He's like, see, that hair could have been tied around your throat, and you could have been, you know, choked out and dead somewhere. And I'm like, well, I guess I could, you know. But he would like, you know, say like, you should keep your hair back in case somebody attacks you. It's not in your face, and but it's true because I watch a lot of, like I said, watch a lot of MMA, and you'll see these guys, they'll get beat up at the moment a finger goes in the eye, they're like,
that's it.
Stop.
5 minutes.
Just a barely little touch of the eye, and they're like, stop. You know, they can be getting kicked in the head and punched. And once someone kind of swipes a little kick to the groin, like, oh, hold on, wait. Yeah. They're on the ground, I'm like, oh, I can't move. So it really does tell you, and I tell my kids that. I say, you know, my daughter especially, say if some guy tries to take you at the mall or something, traffic you, every parent always goes, punch him, hit him. Like, no. Take their eye home. I always tell them, take their eye. Oh, yeah. Take them both. You know, they want to take you home, we'll take their eye home. We'll call it even. You know, yeah. See how funny they think it is when you go bing to their eyeball, or you know, kick them in the Netherlands. You know, and then you go running off after that. You know what I mean? But it's true. One poke to the eye, man. And 10 years of training, you know, I got a couple belts and all that, and that's the one move that I still remember. Hopefully I don't get punched, you know, but if I can get close to get that eyeball, you know, that's that, you know.
Yeah, long range with that leg too.
Get the sweeping the leg across, get the toenail in the eyeball. Oh my God. But you know, that's what motivated me though. Is it was kind of like tough love, you know. Mm-hmm. And I always thought it was funny. And a lot of our crew here in Viejas, we'd go up there and train, spar with them and stuff like that. So I started jogging. He'd always say like, you know, we trained Tuesdays and Thursdays. He'd say like, you know, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, like I should show up and you guys should be getting in better shape because you're doing this outside of class. And we would stretch, man. And I hated stretching. I still hate stretching, but I'll do it because I don't want injury. But I started running, like I said, telephone pole to telephone pole. Before I knew it, I was lapping the res. And then I started to feel it. I could see all the, you know, at one point I had like a six-pack for 2 weeks. I had a six-pack. I was hitting it every day. And I got it. And after a while, I was like, it doesn't mean that much to me to have to do 12-minute abs, you know, at the end of every day. But so I let that go. But I've always tried to stay close, you know, to fit. And I seen him years later. and he looked the same. He didn't age or nothing. And he looked at me, he goes, hey, you look good. I'm glad to see you're still. So when he met me, like I said, I was real chubby.
Mm-hmm.
And then it seemed like when I stopped training, I was in pretty decent shape. And then he had seen me years later. And not that I'm in great shape, but I was in decent shape still for my age. And he was still in fantastic shape. And then he passed on. So may he rest in peace. But his, I know his students, like he has students all over the place. And I know, like, man, every time I talk about him with one of the students, like, we all have the same stories of, like, sound effects, man.
You see a fight go down, and somebody goes for the eye immediately, and you're like, ah.
He trains.
He was trained by the best.
Yeah, that's like Kevin Hart says. He goes, "You never fight a guy who starts dancing around trying to fight with his feet." Who fights with their feet?
Oh God.
But it's true, But you're not out there trying to fight nobody, but self-defense, man. You want to try to not lose your eye and stuff. But what motivated you to do all this? The running, especially with doing all this. Did you do it when you were a kid, or?
No, I hated it. I hated it for the longest time, But I always did things to stay in shape. Grew up playing basketball, sports, but running was never just running for fun. It's not fun, But then it was competitive. So a friend at work was like, "Hey, let's do this run together." I was like, "Cool, let's do it." And yeah, that was my initial motivation for the competition. And so I did those 5Ks, 10Ks, half marathon. Well, when I was 26, so about 5.5 years ago now, my best friend passed away, and we were living in Arizona at the time. And he passed away from ulcer colitis. And right now there's no cure for it. So it's ulcers in your digestive tract.
Okay.
So, it causes a whole slew of problems. Crohn's is tied to that. So I'll be eventually raising money and awareness for that. So I haven't really done that. It's all been like very spiritual and my own kind of thing. But we started running 26 miles in memory of my late friend. So his brother came down. His brother's living in North County and came to Arizona and was like, "Hey, do you want to run this marathon with me?" And I was like, "You know what? I never thought about it. I thought I was going to do it someday, but I made that someday happen." And so just started running and just never thought about it twice, just wanted to do it every year just to honor him and and have that memory and kind of motivate people in the same aspects. My motivation could inspire others, if you can do something, if you're alive and able, get out there and do it. You never know, and not to sound morbid or anything, but we never know when our last day is going to be, so if there's something you wanted to get out and do, just one step at a time, just do it. And that's really that's my mantra, just like one step at a time. And like I said, quite literally, but that's fueled me, and it's been beautiful. It's bittersweet doing the whole thing, and that's why even through injuries and stuff, even when I probably should stop, I just can't. It's just I feel like his energy like fuels me, and it's good stuff.
And then at the conclusion of the day, when you finish running that day, you must really feel an emotional connection at some point, huh?
Oh man, big time. I mean, even throughout every stage of it,
Mm-hmm.
starting off and you're just getting warmed up. You're a couple miles in to midway. You're like, I want to quit, but you keep thinking of that, and it fuels you. And then finally at the end, you just fall over, collapse in this heat, but you're just like, man, I did it. We did it. And it's a great, very emotional experience.
Well, I will say this: you talk about motivation. Like you for sure motivated me, because I was talking to you a while back when you started your training, and I thought to myself, man, I haven't been running. Like I kind of stopped for a while there, and you motivated me to get back. I was like, I better start getting back into it. Like literally months. I haven't ran in months. And I usually never get too far from running because, again, I know what it's like to be so out of shape. And I want to always stay close to where I feel like I can do things. I want to be able to move around and do things with my kids and whatnot and not feel out of breath so much. Went to Big Bear a while back and I was doing stuff and I was like, and I know I'm in high altitude, but come on, dude, I wasn't that out. You know what I mean? Like I should be able to breathe, but I could feel hard breathing. And I remember when I was out of shape when I was younger, I would do things or walk places or do something that you shouldn't be breathing hard, and I'd be breathing hard, tying your shoes, and be like, okay, let me finish tying. And it's like that's not good.
I need a break.
And but then when you get to where you're in shape and you don't ever feel that, I went years without really running out of breath or really having to worry about my air and things like that. I do a lot of singing, and I want to have that air so I can breathe and do these things and just live, And so I always try to stay close to fitness. I'm not so worried about looking good or the big look good muscles or nothing like that, but I always like my cardio to kind of be in check. I have like heart. I have family that have had a history of heart disease and things like that. So I want to make sure that I kind of strengthen myself. So I'd never get too far from running. You know what I mean? Or do hiking or cardio. But I had kind of let that happen, or started the year strong, and then I got towards like September, October, and I kind of had cut off, and then I didn't do anything for, end of September, October, November, December, and then I think I was talking to you, at the end of December, mid-December, you were talking about this, and I said, you know what, when the new year comes, I'm back. I got to get back to running. So I did. I started running the days leading in, that little stretch between Christmas and New Year's, I started kind of, for me, running a half mile, getting myself back up to decent running shape. So still running. I'm going to try to, like I said, do it as long into the year as I can, and then see where I go. Maybe jump into like a half marathon or something just to have, to do it, and then let my body rest. Yeah, man, I'll go run with you.
Even a 5K, 10K. And you don't necessarily have to sign up for a race to do that. I do it just because of of the reasons I told you. But I'll go out and I'll just run around Fiesta Island, or even a hike, a solid hike. Just go up Cow's Mountain real quick, and I'm not running up it, but just get that activity in there. Different scenery, different change of pace. Go with somebody, have fun. Make something out of it. A little morning, get your coffee and go up there, like whatever, and even if you don't feel like running out every day, like you said, the heart problems, heart disease, things like that, 30 minutes, a few times a week is going to make a world of difference. So, there's definitely benefits to doing that, tie something to your kids, or like chase your kids, like, hey, I hid some money at the top of that hill over there.
I'd have to go keep up with them.
Yeah, see what happens, or they pull you on a string or something.
That's a great way to be a tourist, though, to travel, go to a new city or stuff, is to go jog. When I first, or one of the first times I went out to Washington, D.C., if you've never been out there, Washington, D.C. is kind of it's like a few miles, kind of in a straight line, where it's like the Supreme Court, and across the street's the Capitol building, and then it's all of the National Mall all the way down to like the Lincoln Memorial and the Washington memorials in the middle. They're all like right in the line, and so it's kind of like, well, you can take a taxi to all those things, or you can walk from one another, but I kind of didn't get the understanding of it. So for me, I was like, well, I'm just gonna jog it. So I got up early and I jogged a big lap. I got to see everything really within half hour, an hour. And then I knew what I wanted to go spend more time in. So then I took, a taxi over there and spent more time in the museums and all these things. But it was a great way just to kind of see everything. So I've done that a few times, different cities I've gone to, where maybe I don't have a week to sit there and look at everything, but have some time. And parking is a crazy one, and I don't want to take taxis, Ubers everywhere. So just go put on the shoes and go run it out and go see everything, like right there face to face as you're jogging, and kind of with the people, you kind of see what's up and get the vibe of the area. San Diego is a great city to do that. Just go down there, run the beach,
and see the countryside. You can see all that in a day.
Go up to Cowles and look down, right?
Yeah, it's incredible what you'll miss from a vehicle as opposed to what you can see on foot or even on a bike. I love biking too, because I can go 50, 60 miles and you'll see so much. But you'll miss, like just getting out there on foot or something. You'll miss all these little hidden treasures if you're in a train or in a car or something like that. So yeah, that's a great idea too.
So true. I learned that when I ran out of gas one time. I was walking on the side of the road. Like, whoa, I never.
$10. Now I can fill this thing up.
Hey, so it's all coming together. You guys, you're gonna go run out there at the Rock and Roll Marathon out in Phoenix area, and you said January 18th, is it?
It's January 19th.
19th.
Yeah.
Okay. In the morning.
Yeah. It starts at 7, so we'll be out there. I'll come back. I'll do the one in June here.
Okay. Maybe that'll be my goal. I'll go jump in with you at least at least a couple miles. Push myself out.
But it's crazy out here because Arizona, it's so flat, and out here it's a huge difference. But it'll be fun.
See, I should have got ready for that one then.
It'll be very challenging, but.
You rolling out with a crew? You got sponsors or anything like that?
LOI.
All right.
Listen, Linton, they paid for my spot. I'm ever so grateful for the company we work for, man.
Nice. Loveless and Linton Archaeology.
Yeah, they
cool.
love us, so they take care of us, and they paid for my spot this year, and it's great. It's a great thing.
That's cool, man. That's cool. They're promoting you like that to go do something positive like that. And anybody in the Phoenix area, you guys are going to be there. Check in, man. Come cheer on Dom at the run there, the race. And I'm sure there's probably, Phoenix area's got so many natives. There's probably be a lot of natives out there. Link up with one another online, and maybe make a little native race team out there, and cheer each other on and stuff like that. It's kind of cool to do that. I know when some of the 5Ks I've done, I've run into some people and done things like that. It's kind of cool. It adds a little something to it.
I'm talking to Connor right now, and I'm trying to get him out there. He's coming. So.
Shout out to Connor Hensley.
It's like 2 hours away. He could come up for the
day.
Yeah.
He could put down his protest sign and come.
Some Kumeyaay Yaqui integration there. So
that'll be cool, man. Yeah. Like our people used to, like they say that. Well, like I think in our own, like I said, psychological distance, we think of those guys so far over there. It's like so far away, but our people used to run and hang out with each other. They said it took one day to get from the ocean to the desert, to the Quechan Nation, and those guys could run it out to the Peeposh out there and Maricopa areas, and then over there to the Yaqui. So you think 3-4 days be over there, a message or a trade item or just a person even. So it's in our blood. It's in our genetic code. It's in the genetics of the land to come together, run, enjoy one another. So yeah, he better roll through, man.
Better.
Good times.
I used to train around Tempe Beach Park when I lived out there. You're familiar, yeah?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. I haven't ran through there or nothing, but yeah.
It's a man-made lake, but I remember, the coolest part of this. Is that I would always think, I'm like, this smelly lake. I'm like, someday I'm gonna train next to the ocean. And then one year I just up in moods and got more familiar with my people, and here I am, training next to the ocean and making dreams come true. So that's another thing I'd like to promote to people. Is like, just go for it, do whatever you want, and if you think something and you keep thinking it, just make it, somehow make it manifest for you. And it's I'm living out a dream right now, being able to do this. So.
Come back home and be in your Kumeyaay territory, right here next to the ocean, smelling the breeze and
yes, sir.
all that kind of stuff. Well, man, I want to thank you for coming in. It's been awesome. This is the year try to get in shape. You know what I mean? Trying to promote health for everybody out there, and so. It's important to hear, voices like yours to come and share what it actually looks like to be out there running, doing these things, jumping in marathons, promoting health, and living that good life,
Yeah. My cousin Philip's a good example of that. The activist runner. So he's always doing the same things out there. So it's in our blood, and happy to share. And thanks for having me on.
Right on, man. That's that Mesa Grande power. All right, man. Live from the Rez. Thank you.